So here I'm going to define some brushes. A quick way to build up shapes is to create brushes and then quickly just paint the shapes with the brushes. So I have a couple layers already set here with some photos that I took. Just call this vernacular typography, found imagery, something that's graffiti. So I'm going to convert both of these to brushes to use, and it's pretty simple. You just have to make a selection. So if I'm on the layer that says waste here and I make a selection and I go to edit and define brush preset, and that's going to pop up this window here, and then I can name it. So I'll call it waste brush, hit OK. The selection that I made is already there, so I want to get rid of it so I can paint outside of the selection. So I'm going to hit Command D to get rid of the selection that I made, and there's my brush right there. So the key to making a brush is the dark part of the image is going to be the part that you'll be painting with. What you have to do sometimes is play with the colors a little bit. I may want to keep this brushed like that, that's fine, but let's say I want the words waste to actually show up as my brush and not the negative space, which is the visual information around waste. All you have to do is just invert the colors or make your black white and your white black. I'm going to duplicate waste here and hide the version below by clicking on little eyeball icon in that layer, and then I'm going to hit, that's my shortcut for marquee select. I'm going to select it again, but this time in this duplicate I'm going to hit Command I and just invert those colors. So my darks become lighter, my darker colors become lighter, my lighter colors become darker. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play with the levels a little bit. Let's say I want the background to be completely white so nothing shows up and only the letters show up as the shapes that I paint. So to adjust your colors, you can play with curves or you can play with levels. Levels, the shortcut is Command L or Control L on a PC, and all you need to do is drag these little triangles inwards. So if I drag the right triangle inwards, it's going to make my light areas lighter, and if I drag the left triangle inward, it's going to make my dark areas darker. So as I bring those two triangles together in the levels here, it's limiting the amount of grayscale information and giving me more contrast in that image. So I'm going to hit OK. And so when I define this brush now by going up into edit, define brush, I'll call it waste. I will deselect that selection, and now I have this. This is probably what you want. You want to have the important information, the positive information, be the shape that you want to paint with. So you could say that the subject matter is the word waste. That is the positive information. The negative information is the background. That's the negative space. So I'm painting with the positive space. So controlling your negative positive space is based on inverting colors most of the time, so you make that positive color the darker color that you're going to use. So same thing with this information. The left here, this layer that has this kind of weird graffiti, I'm going to hit M for marquee select, so I'm making a rectangular selection around this. And everything here is the same tonal range. So if you make a brush of something that has the same range of colors, I'm going to define this brush here. I'll just call it abstract brush, and then I'll hit D, Command D to deselect, make this smaller. So when I paint with this, kind of getting a solid brush, there's not a lot of contrast within that brush. So if I want something to stand out, like the letter type graffiti here, I would again have to play with my levels. So make a selection. Here I'll duplicate that layer. I'll hit a Command J to duplicate, turn off the one below. And here in this layer, I will play with the colors here, but this time I'll use curves. So Command M or Control M is for curves. And curves is basically adjusting the levels for each channel. So we have RGB here, red, green, blue, and playing with the curve will let some information stand out more. Here the red information is standing out you can adjust individual channels. So if I want to just adjust the red, I can go here in the channels, red, and then play with that red channel. I can adjust the green channel, I will adjust greens, then I can play with the blue channel. And the one channel that really sticks out though is the red channel, because the lettering is pink, pushing that so that sticks out a little bit more. Now with the curve, you can adjust anywhere on that curve. When you click on the curve, you add these points to adjust it, and that is adjusting the range of darks and lights and the saturation of the curve as well. Here I'm going to maybe make my red try to pop as much as possible. Now with this, instead of making a marquee selection, I'll use my magic wand tool and I will unclick contiguous and raise up the tolerance to a higher level. So let's say 50 to get as much as that pink red color into my selection, and then I will define that as a brush. And now I have those graffiti letter forms. Instead of having the whole brush, deselect it, now I can paint with that. It makes things a little bit more easier to see if I want to have those distinct letter forms. Once you have these brushes set, they're going to be in your brush palette. You will see these brushes up here, and then if you want to save the brush, you hit the little square icon down below, hit OK, and then it's going to be saved down below. They're down here as well, but what you're seeing is the brush as it's painted out continuously. So you may want to adjust the settings in brush settings. So for example, increasing the spacing, and that's going to make it easier to see. Then what you can also do too is you can view the brushes just as a tip. So instead of a long stroke, you can click on your little hamburger menu in brushes and then just turn off brush stroke and turn on brush tip, and then that will let you basically see that a little bit better, just increasing the size. This is like a nice way to view the brushes. If I want to adjust this brush further, I can create a new document and then lay down a brush stroke, make a selection with the marquee select tool, go into levels, so I can hit Command L or Control L, and then pull the two triangles in and darken that up a little bit just to get a darker brush, and then go back to edit and define that brush again. And now when I add these strokes, it's a little bit darker. So really a quick way to create a means to add shapes or forms or interesting imagery really quickly just by using a brush.